Hello and welcome to this Birketts bite-sized webinar on local government reorganisation. I'm Claire Jones, Legal Director in our public sector team, and today we're going to be talking about all matters employment related, and so I'm joined by employment partner Sonya O'Reilly, who is a local government specialist.
Thank you. Nice to see you all.
Well, we all know what the structure is like for local government reorganisation, and we've got the Local Government Public Involvement in Health Act 2007, which we're familiar with, and the regulations that have been made under that. However, it is a really complex area of law, Sonya. Is there anything you can say today to help us understand what's going to happen from an employment perspective?
Yeah, it is very complicated, Claire. Thank you. And local government reorganisation in the way in which it is being proposed is, of course, it's a generational change, and so it's rather unprecedented to know exactly how the rules are going to be applied with this reorganisation. So, as Claire alluded to, there are already a suite of regulations that has in the past set out what laws will apply to do with employees. Now, particularly, the legislation that we have had in the past is the Local Government Structural and Boundary Changes Staffing Regulations in 2008. Now, those particular regulations made it clear that the Transfer of Undertakings Regulations, that's TUPE by its shorter title, the Transfer of Undertakings Protection of Employee Regulations, that would be deemed to apply in these kind of reorganisations, even when actually, strictly under the wording of TUPE, you might not otherwise think it would apply. So we have these regulations which suggests that TUPE will apply, but I think we're still in a position of not exactly knowing how ministers are going to determine this, because we are aware that lots of authorities have been written to by ministers in recent times talking about continuing authorities, and a suggestion that if an entity was going to be continuing with exactly the same geographical footprint as the predecessor authority, then TUPE might not apply because there wouldn't be a change from one entity to another, effectively, in the same way that TUPE normally envisages. It will be this idea of an authority really just continuing on in the way that it has done previously, albeit then with the need to consider where there might be some duplication of roles and all the various differences that will come into effect because of perhaps an amalgamation of entities bearing that same geographical footprint. So I think it's tricky to actually give any very clear guidance at this point about exactly how the local government reorganisation is going to take effect, because it will really differ depending on what new authorities are going to be put in place in any different area.
Thanks, Sonya. That's at least helpful. We know a little bit more where we may or may not stand going forward. But we've been doing a lot of work with our clients, telling them what they can be doing now to help them prepare for this local government reorganisation. Is there anything you can share with us? And tell our clients what they can do now.
Yeah, and I think there are practical things that you can start doing. So human resources teams can start really looking at auditing the workforce that you have in place at the moment. Now, we do need to be a little bit careful about making any particular changes in advance of a potential transfer, because if TUPE is deemed to apply, making changes to a workforce in anticipation of a transfer can be unlawful. But what you can be doing is really carrying out an audit. What have we got? What do our staff do? Where have we got people carrying out particular functions? What are they doing that might have differed from their original job descriptions and things that they were employed to do? So I think a general audit, almost as part of your due diligence processes, to really help you understand what is our staffing made up of, what have we got at the moment, so that you can start to think about what you might need in the future. Now, you might be looking at where there are duplication of roles, perhaps already in your own workforce. Are there people who are doing things that you no longer have a need for at the moment? This isn't about what you might need in the future, it's what do you have now. And almost perhaps do a little bit of a tidy up operation on the staffing that you currently have. So you could also be thinking about, do we have any employees who are needing to be managed from their point of view of their performance? Are there people who you ought to be managing capability processes with right now? And if there are, then it might be sensible to really work on those and try to ensure that you're doing that carefully and diligently in accordance with all the correct legal processes, but so that perhaps you're not bringing across to any new entity employees whose employment might otherwise better have ended earlier. And again, I stress that you must be careful that you're not doing that solely because there might be a transfer, because that could be unlawful, but purely if there's a performance issue, then you could manage that on its own. Same with ill health issues. There could be people for whom they've had a long-term sickness absence, where actually it's an opportunity perhaps to really start to look at those people across the organisation now and identify whether any steps should be taken properly and lawfully in accordance with your own capability management procedures for ill health now, rather than leaving it as something to be dealt with post any changes. So I think it's a sort of tidying up job, an auditing of what you have, looking at the staffing levels that you currently have and what are people actually doing and where are they doing it. You need to be mindful, as I say, of the potential for TUPE to apply and how that might operate in situations where TUPE may apply, which, as I say, is a little bit vague because we're not entirely sure where there might be occasions where it will be deemed not to apply, where there's a continuing authority. You could also be having good communications and trying to ensure that your relationships with your trade union body is as good as it can be, because they're going to be really quite a pivotal party to any negotiations in the future about changes to people's terms and conditions perhaps, or redundancy processes that may need to take effect in any reorganised entity. So the better your relationships with the trade unions are now will only stand you in good stead for the future.
Thank you, Sonya. That's some really useful insights there. So thank you very much for sharing those with us. If anyone does have any questions that you'd like to raise with Sonya or myself and local government reorganisation, then please do get in contact, write to us, and we will come back to you. This is only one in a series of these mini webinars that we're going to be doing on local government reorganisation. So please do look out for those in the future, where we will be addressing more practical tips for different matters that will affect you going forward. But for now, that's goodbye from me.
And goodbye from me. Thank you.
Thank you.